Hey guys, welcome back to my lecture series on the Java Spring Boot application, where we'll be creating a demo application. And this is lecture 2 in the series, where I will be explaining a little to you about the structure of this application, and I'll also explain a little on the project or the database that we'll be using to extract the information from the database. So let's get into that. Now, once we have downloaded the zip, we will extract it and import it into IntelliJ. So let me actually, so you can import the extracted files and you should be seeing something like this. And make sure to set your Java version number according to the version number that according to the uh, Maven version number, as it might cause some sort of compatibility issues. Now let's get into the good stuff. Now the first thing is this pom.xml file. Now this pom.xml file is basically the whole defin you can say a definition of your main project. Here you can see this is given as the parent of this whole project. So its parent lies in the Spring Boot starter parent, and we are using 3.06 version of that. So this is the default it comes with in, but when you are working for some sort of organization, you will most likely have some sort of your own group IDs and artifact IDs over there, and you will use those. Now, looking at these lines, this is basically what you provided in the Spring Initializer. So group ID is usually like the company name kind of thing. So for example, if you're working for Microsoft, it might be com.microsoft or something along those lines, or it could be com.facebook when you're working for Facebook, or it is possible they have internal group IDs as well, depending on the BU. So it can be then separated on those things. Artifact ID is the application name that we have. Version number is as is shown over here, which is basically a version number. So like when you have some sort of CI/CD setup, you can basically like increment this version number once the version is deployed. Or you can have those kind of things, but I am not sure we will get into those things in this course. We might at a later stage, and that is actually something new that I will learn with you guys as well, because I haven't worked on any sorts of CI/CD pipelines or any such things. So let's get to that when we get to that. This is again the name and the description that we provided. Java version, it shows Java 17 we are using, and then is the one of the most important part, the dependencies. So this is, as I mentioned, kind of the import statements you would have in a regular Java file, but through dependencies. You will still need to import uh, the things, the specific last name or things like that. But here you can use this. But here once you do this over here, these things will be packaged in a fat jar. These will be packaged along with your project, and these will be present in these external libraries in this IntelliJ application. So for example, if we go look for Lombok, so you can see this Lombok and the version number. So it is using 1.18.26. So it is possible, like when working for organizations, if you are using an internal application, you will have some sort of version numbers that you can vary up and down depending on what version you're using. So for example, if this was being used by someplace else, so this might have to provide a version number given the fact that we wanted to use a specific version and not the latest one. Otherwise, what it will do, it will go to the web, and like whatever your internal store would be for storing these things, and it would take the latest version from there. So here, since we are just doing a demo application, and most of these are just from the web directly, like I'm not using anything specific to my own, so I will be just using the web thing, the latest version available on the web repositories. Then here is the build application build things. It's tell the build options. I haven't played around with them a lot, but you can just see, look through them. So like you provide a plugin over here, like how it will be. I'm guessing it will be for how it is building, and then you have some exclusions as well. So you might not want to build the Lombok project. Under some circumstances, which I'm not sure about. Now let's get into the source folder. So these the target is usually the generated auto-generated generated files, MVN and .idr again. These are again the generated files which you will get. Usually you don't need to concern yourself with these three folders. The only main folder you have is this source folder. In this source folder, we have a main and a test folder usually. So in test, you will usually write application test. You'll write basically you write the unit test, which we will come to at a later point in this video series. But right now, for now, let's focus on the main folder. In the main folder again, you'll have two things: resources and Java. Let's go to the resources folder first. So here you can see by default there is an application.properties. So here you can provide some sort of properties that will change through the property. I mean, you can externalize these properties to an application file. Like in this example, it will look like you are using the application.properties from the same project only. But when you have like when you have this enterprise kind of enterprise, when you're working for an enterprise, a big company, what you will usually have is your code being stored in one repository, and then you'll have properties maintained as a different repository. So here we just change the repositories, and you just need to restart the pods that will then bring up the application with the new properties. And another thing, what usually people do is like what people generally follow is like you can have application dev properties, then application E2E, and then application, let's say pre-prod, and application production properties. So what this will do is like you can specify which profile you're using, and it will directly use those properties. So what can happen is, for example, you have different databases for different environments, for different sort of testing and things. So for dev, you have some sort of dev database basically for different environments, you'll have to specify different properties. So instead of changing these properties over and over again in a single file, you will just change it once. I mean, you'll just store it as once for each file, and then it will pick up directly for whichever pod you are spinning up on your application. So here, since we'll be working as of right now with a single set of properties, so we'll be using the application properties only. And in the later stages, as I mentioned, if we pick up something with the CI/CD, I will explore that as well, and I will show that to you as well. Now coming to the Java folder. So these two are the main folders which we will be concerning ourselves with. So this Java folder, right now you see there is just a single line over here, a single file over here, sorry. And here you just see this one single line of code, Spring application.run. So this is just basically starting up the Spring Boot application and basically wiring everything up. Right now we don't have anything else to wire up, so it should start up directly. Let's just run this program right now. Okay, so here it says failed to configure a data source, URL attribute is not specified. Okay, so I know what the issue over here is. So basically what is happening is, since we have specified the JPA and the MySQL connectors, so it is basically looking for a URL like your database URL, username, passwords in the application properties, and it is unable to find that as of right now. So let's do one thing. Let's comment this code out for now, right now, and we will rerun this application. Once we start actually integrating with the database, I will comment in the code again, and then we'll fill out the application properties as well, and we'll work on that. Now another thing. Now anytime you make any sort of changes to this form.xml, you will see this Maven reload kind of a symbol. So you just click on that, and it will, at the bottom you can see it is importing some new changes or whatever changes you have made, it is basically syncing all those things. Here you can see it's saying is sync as a tick mark. So basically our application has imported the changes that we made in this pom.xml file. Now, okay, so this is done. Now let's just go back again and let's run this application. So since right now we haven't done any sort of configurations or anything, we won't be seeing much of a thing. So here it just started Tomcat application. So Tomcat started on port 8080. So this is the default port which it usually is used. So again, as I mentioned, so you can specify these things in application properties, and then the Spring Boot application will pick these up from the application properties, and you can specify a different port and all those things. So we'll come to that in a later stage. Like once we are working with the database URLs, we'll come to that at this point as well. Yeah, okay. Now, just one thing that I like to do is I like to add a log statement over here, which is kind of a different from the specific, which is kind of different from this generic kind of a thing, which can tell me my application has started up. So once like you start with like the bigger, so once you have, you'll be start working with bigger code, bigger applications, there will be a lot of these things, what do you call it? Log statements. So it can be quite difficult to identify if your code has started. So let me just do that. Give me a second for that. So I'll do. Now this log4j, so this is a dependency that I am using. So this is the Lombok dependency that I was mentioning earlier. So I'm using this. So this is basically a logging library. And as I mentioned, so you have to still have the import statement over here. So what you earlier you used to create a new object, and so basically this is the dependency inversion. So instead of creating a tightly coupled object to this class only, I am creating a loosely coupled, and I'm enforcing Spring Boot to create these things for me. So my code is cleaner. I don't have to write like garbage code. I mean, not garbage code, but extra code, junk code to bring up simple things. So this, like once the application runs, just this statement will bring up my logs. And so just I'll put here. So this is the log object it creates, and it has some methods, but what we usually use are info, error, and debug are the three methods that I have used for most of my time. So let me put a log.info, array, application is working. Now, if we restart this application right now, yeah, so now you can see this is working now. And now we print this thing. So again, as I mentioned, apart from the fact that it just prints a specific message that you want, so like hooray, I'm guessing is not something you'll find in most of the logs. So it is quite easy to figure out if our application is up or not. As I mentioned, again, it is right now it doesn't seem like a lot, but once like you get to enterprise, there it might be possible you have like the 2,000 lines of logs just printing just before you get to this point. And even after that, sometimes like there are some sort of methods that are running like in a loop, like they run every 5 seconds or every 1 second or every 1 minute or something like that, that will keep printing logs. So it can be quite difficult to get the actual starting point. So here, that's why I wrote this kind of a statement. Okay, so I think that, okay, let me just share this thing. So basically what we'll be doing is we'll be creating this kind of a database, and I will be using different kind of things, different kinds of data types so as to cover as much as possible. So we'll just be having a simple product like an Amazon product kind of a thing. We'll have a ID for that. It will be of type string. It will be a random UUID. I'll explain what a UUID is at the later stage when we come to it. It will be a primary key meaning unique, and it cannot be null. And it is basically a unique identifier, kind of like a roll number in a school or college. Name, it will again be string. Quantity will have a numeric. Price would be a decimal numeric, but still numeric. So it could think like this could be like an integer where speaking in Java terms, this will be an integer and price would be a float variable. And we'll have a type. So this, sorry, let me just make it product type. Now this will be a foreign key to a different table product type, and here we'll have product type ID and product type description. Again, so just string a random UUID primary key, and the description would be a blob. So the main reason for me for doing this is so as to cover the most of the things that you will ever come across when you are saving things to a database. Obviously, there are a lot of other data types as well, but this should at least cover the basics to get you started with these. And product type, I just put it there just to enforce a foreign key concept as well, because foreign keys are quite common in bigger databases. Like when you go to enterprise level, foreign keys would be quite common, and you will have like multiple tables calling multiple different foreign keys. It is always there. I mean, it is usually there. So that is why I am forcing this foreign key just for the learning purposes. Okay, guys, that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll start with some of the simple things like the REST controllers. Some of the simpler REST controllers. I'll give a little brief understanding of REST controllers, and we'll go to Postman as well and create new collections and requests. To anybody who doesn't know, like I'll explain it a little in a little detail as well, and we'll get back to this. Alright guys, thank you for watching. Hope you like the content, and make sure to like and subscribe.